Okay, so the last piece of information you're going to need before you decide on where to place your housing development is something called shake amplification information. You guys did a little bit of reading, but I want to make sure we have the right information for this, because it's going to be one of the key pieces of why you place your housing development where you did. You'll have access to the soil of Snohomish County. I actually found a map of that. So you're going to know what type of soil is in all of Snohomish County. So by definition, so let's go ahead and write this down. By definition, shake amplification is the amount of ground shaking, I should have added, during an earthquake due to the type of soil that's in that location. So if it might shake more, it might shake less, all dependent on what type of soil and what type of rock made up that soil at that location. Are we writing all this down? Are you writing it down? So in a second, I'll see what you guys remember, but certain areas, depending on the soil that's found there, will either experience more shaking or less shaking. And obviously during an earthquake, what do we want? Less shaking or more shaking? Less. We want less shaking. If I have a house on an area, I don't want my house to shake so much. And so that's going to be a key piece of your decision. We talked about it's not just this type of soil, but remember it's also, is it near a fault line? So the closer to the fault line would also experience more shaking, because that's where the earthquakes are going to happen, than someplace that's maybe further away. Does anybody remember what type of rock would experience the least amount of shaking from the reading you did a while ago? Raise your hand if you think you know. Brendan?
Wasn't it like either sedimentary or metamorphic?
Anybody else? Caroline? It actually is igneous rock. So the way it's okay, Brendan. Thank you for trying. So basically, the more the softer the soil, the more shaking than the harder this. So how I did this, you guys, is we're going to put our 3 types of rock down. So igneous rock, metamorphic, and sedimentary rock. And then I just drew an arrow. And as we said, igneous rock is actually going to have the least amount of shaking. So the stiffer the soils, the least shaking. Okay, so what I did is it's going to be a continuum, right? So igneous rock would experience the least amount of shaking. Metamorphic would have more shaking. And sedimentary rock is going to experience the most shaking. And if it's like mud and sand, which we might have some on the edges, that would even experience more shaking. So you're going to look for areas then that maybe might be in here, depending on where the fault line is as well.